I go into businesses, I look at a business and say, okay, you're at point A and you want to be at point B. What are you doing to get there? How well is it working? What isn't working? Where are the holes in the net? If you answer the question why, and you then make sure that that permeates through everything that you do, say, howsoever you get that message across, then that's the key. You're getting the message across.
What impact do you see AI having over the next couple of years?
I think if people embrace it, there are so many things that can be automated or semi-automated that will help people deliver.
Hi, I'm Freya. Welcome to the Skynet Chronicles, Business in the AI Age, the podcast that dives deep into the world where artificial intelligence meets business. Join us as we explore the latest trends, challenges, and opportunities in this ever-evolving landscape. From innovative startups to established enterprises, we'll uncover the secrets behind the successful integration of AI technologies. So grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and get ready to unlock the mysteries of business in the AI age.
Good morning, Chris.
Morning, Tim.
Delighted to have you with us today.
Thank you.
So, it says here in my little script, expert in marketing. Talk to me about your journey.
Okay, well, it's a journey that began a long time ago, actually.
Did it?
Because what started it was I used to work in shipping, and I was always fascinated by the fact that there were 36 agencies in the port, and there were some really talented people in there. And when you started to look at the success rates of different agencies, it didn't matter what they knew. It mattered how well they were able to educate the marketplace to understand why they should use them. And that sort of started me thinking. Went out to America.
Whereabouts in America?
We lived in Virginia, just outside of DC. And met some terrific people out there, and I blagged my way into marketing. You know, I had a ponytail and an English accent. It was quite easy.
A ponytail enabled you to blag your way into things.
Yeah. If you've got front. So it was one of those things. I knew what I wanted to do at that point. I was having the time of my life. But when I came back to the UK in the sort of mid-90s, that's when I started in earnest, and I began working with an organisation that came out of Australia. It was licensed, and it was a superb education process. I worked with some really wonderful companies and learned a heck of a lot. And that's where the journey really progressed. I eventually completed a management buyout, had that 15 years, and exited about a dozen years ago when I just wanted a bit more control over the way things were running for me, the businesses I wanted to work with, and the way I wanted to work with them to get things done.
Wonderful intro into profitable marketing.
Thank you.
So tell us about profitable marketing.
So profitable marketing, I go into businesses and I look at a business and say, okay, you're at point A and you want to be at point B. What are you doing to get there? How well is it working? What isn't working? Where are the holes in the net? Where are the hot spots that can be leveraged? And how are you doing that systemically and in a process-driven way so it's replicable? Because at the end of the day, you want things to work and you want to be able to repeat that success. Yeah. So I look at the business from the viewpoint of where they want to be and look at the strategies that they've got in place. Okay, most businesses are pretty good at what they do, otherwise they couldn't remain in business. It then becomes just about how you educate the marketplace. So Profitable Marketing Limited is all about how you educate your marketplace effectively in the most cost, time and resource effective way.
And so that process that you follow with a company,
yes,
is relatively structured and repeatable in the way that you follow it and in the impact that it has within the business. Can you talk about how that process has taken place historically?
Okay. It's interesting because I hadn't realised that I was necessarily following the process so closely. But it's like anything. If you learn how to do something, you don't do it in a way that doesn't work. You keep utilising the things that work. You keep tweaking, keep refining. What I think became very evident to me was that all the tactical elements, all the tools like what we've got now, social media, emails, websites, etc., back in the day when I started, of course, there was none of that. But the same premise remains. You've got to be able to give people confidence. You've got to be able to educate them effectively to understand and appreciate not just what you do, but why they should buy that from you. So the process for me has always been one of digging, asking lots of questions. Well, why do you do that? Well, what does that mean? Well, what happens if you don't? Well, and all the various things that I naturally do. Because I don't know if maybe it's because I'm nosy. Maybe it's because
It's not nosy if it's your job.
Well,
You're being paid to be nosy.
I'm interested in people. I'm interested in business. And what became very clear, Tim, is the fact that you talk to business people, you talk to people who run any type of organisation, and there's either a real passion behind it or there's something driving them. And what occurred to me quite early on was the fact that it's all about basic human psychology. So when you think about the tactical elements, they come latterly.
Yeah.
Okay, so fundamentally for me, if you don't identify the reasons why people should buy from a company and articulate those with real clarity so that people understand, appreciate, and have confidence that you can deliver, it doesn't matter what you do after that. It won't maximize. I'm not saying it won't work. It will, to a degree, but it will not maximize. You can maximize by fully immersing yourself in the understanding of why people should buy. And that means going into different strata, way down into different levels.
So you would take a company on a guided journey through where effectively you're getting to understand enough about that business to define their unique selling proposition.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting, when I first started sort of studying unique selling propositions, everybody was looking for a strap line, a single piece. And what I came to understand for me is that it's far deeper than that. I've put USPs together, which have been pages and pages and pages long, almost like a book, because there's so much information in a business. And at first I started working on it's all about the product or it's all about the service. Actually, it's all about everything. It's about everything that you do from the minute you walk into that office, factory, manufacturing plant, whatever it is and whatever it is that people do. It's all about everything, the attitude, the culture, and the USPs or value propositions, or as I call it, the answer to the question why, all comes from all of those things encapsulated.
And we've spent the best part of 18 months now seeing how AI can be applied to that process and what the best way of aiding the process that you have currently to create a good user experience, not detracting from that interviewing process and method that you have, to try and accelerate the development of those sorts of whys within a business, haven't we?
Yes.
And we've tried some different techniques. We've gone from surveys initially.
Yes.
With an awful lot of questions that people struggled with, funnily enough.
Had a lot of awful questions.
Well, I think it was a fun-filled journey, wasn't it?
It certainly has been, yes.
And we're now looking at a vintage which takes the process that you've followed historically, whether you thought of it as a process or not, and can be run remotely, potentially,
Yes,
or in person. Can you talk a bit about, I guess, really why you wanted to create an application to support you in this instance?
Yeah, absolutely. it's one of those things that when COVID came along and we all had a little bit more time, perhaps, or some of us did, to really sort of consider and cogitate over the whys, I started to think about what I had done with clients that had made the biggest difference. And for some, we've done project work. For others, it's been beginning to end strategic approach and all the various different modules of tactical stuff, what I call marketing stuff. Okay, it's a technical term. And I think, interestingly, when I started to think about it, I kept coming back to the same answer that I guess I knew, but had never really thought about that deeply. And that is, if you answer the question why, and you then make sure that that permeates through everything that you do, say, write down, film, howsoever you get that message across, then that's the key. You're getting the message across. So I started to look at that. And I thought, well, do I always do it the same way? Well, not really. It depends on the customer. It depends on the client. There are different ways of doing it, and it just depends on what the type of business is. Some are very straightforward. Some are quite deep, and I have to dig, particularly if I really don't understand what it is that the business does at that simplistic level, I have to get down deep into that. So the process, I then started thinking about, okay, so I do follow a process, and I thought about the questions that I ask and the questionnaires that I've used in the past and so on and so forth. And then our conversation came along, and that conversation was when we started talking about the answer to the question why should I buy from you, and how that comes about. I remember you saying to me, well, you follow a process then. And I said, well, yes, I guess I do. And when I started to really think about that, Tim, what became very clear was the fact that I follow this process. It takes time. I need to assimilate the information that I've gained. I write down an awful lot of notes, as you know, from all the journals that I've got. And I then go back through those and start to build a story, okay, the story of the company. And the key is that it's written from the perspective of the client, of the customer.
Yeah.
Then you said to me, well, as obviously we were working together anyway on Project Rising, you said to me, well, if you could shortcut some of that bit in the middle, what difference do you think it would make? And we kind of had that discussion about the fact that on average, just a project like that would usually take me about 2 months of work with the client, face-to-face, over the phone, VC, et cetera, and building that story, going back to them, tightening it up, et cetera. And I remember you saying to me, well, what if we could shorten that to a week? And I laughed because I thought you were joking, not having a real understanding of what AI was capable of, I think is what that came out of. But what became very clear was when you started to explain to me exactly what that could do by compressing a lot of the heavy lifting in the middle.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I say the heavy lifting, a lot of the formative writing, taking what's been said, putting that down onto, a digital footprint so that I can then play with it and tweak it and refine it and take pieces out and move it about so that I've got a really good story that explains, educates, communicates effectively, and gives people confidence. So when we decided to go for it, and we invested with Project Rising, and you invested your time in me, and we've spent a lot of time on this, it became very clear that this was really something very, very powerful. And that got me excited because I wanted it personally for my clients so that I could accelerate the process for them.
And that was the original objective, wasn't it?
That was the objective, to accelerate the process for my clients, to be able to deliver faster, easier, and make life as simple as possible for them to sell their product or their service.
Yep. And so over the period we've been working on it, the how has evolved, hasn't it?
Yes.
And also the for who has evolved. Can you talk a bit about both?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. So looking at it from my perspective, I was looking at it and saying, well, how would this help my clients? How would it help me? What would it enable me to do? And the initial thought from a very selfish perspective was that would free up some time for me. You know, if I could accelerate the process and have a bit of help from AI and all the coding and software that you guys put behind it, then I would have more time to spend doing other things. And then as it sort of developed, what became clear by talking with you and some of the other guys we know is that this had far more appeal and would be far more wide-reaching. So we started to think about who else could benefit from it. And the key and obvious one was other marketing organizations. Anybody that needed to extract a story, write collateral, put together everything from web pages to headlines, sub-headlines, social media, brochure work, you name it, the collateral, the base collateral could come out of that process. So that to me was really exciting because, and I've said it to you before, Tim, I've never seen other marketing organizations as competition. And I don't mean that in an arrogant way, i.e. I haven't got any competition. Of course I have, lots of it. There's some very, very clever people out there. What I meant by that is that there are lots of businesses out there. And a lot of businesses need people who can help them educate their marketplace so that their marketplace understands why they should buy. Yeah. And they can do it systemically, and they can measure it and test it and refine it so that they're making a really good fist of it that can be improved and improved. So it became a natural progression then to think about how I could put this in front of other marketing organizations, web developers. I've heard so many times over the years from web guys, oh, I'm still waiting for the copy. You know, well, if you could get 80, 85, 90% of the way there with this, how much easier is their role then, and how much simpler would it be for them to go back to the client, refine it, and complete that piece of work? Everybody wins.
Yeah. I think the big learning point for us as we went through the process was, how do we move from this question-based gathering of data to the natural question and digging technique that you've used, the 5 whys. You're just constantly asking why until you get to the right answer. And if they don't give you quite the right answer that you think they should do, asking them questions that are inherently loaded to get to the nuts and bolts of why that business is unique. How we then converted that into effectively a guided interview process, which has a template of sorts to it, but then can be rolled out to any marketing agency to perform that conversation that then drives all of the AI capability down the line to produce those assets. That was quite a leap forward for us, wasn't it?
It was a big leap forward. Whilst I'd love to take some credit for that, I can't, because that was a conversation that you and I had with another friend, Joseph, of Joseph Creative Business, another marketing company. And Joseph said, the unique element, Chris, is the way in which you ask the questions and you interview people. It is a guided interview. And that's a term that you coined in relation to this. And it is about guiding people to find the right answers, because for any business person, everything becomes the norm. The longer you do something, the more it's just the norm. So if you're helping them to dig, if you're helping them to uncover stuff that they've forgotten, perhaps things that they do, and I'd say to people, why do you do that? Well, yeah, good question. We always do that. Well, what would happen if you didn't? Oh, and
There'd be trouble.
There'd be trouble, But you find those little nuggets, and on their own, they might be superb. But when you put them together with all the rest of the story, that's when it really flies. So it was Joseph Riley who said,
You're the secret sauce, Chris.
well, yeah, which is a nice way of putting it. But he said it's the interview process. That's the key. So we binned all those terrible questionnaires, which had some fabulous questions, but they were tough to put answers to for business people.
Well, we also found that people sometimes answered them somewhat flippantly. Me being one of the answers that we saw to quite a few of the questions as to why
Yes.
business was successful. And it's difficult to extract true conceptual why that business is successful if somebody is just thinking, well, it's me. And they were joking, obviously.
Yes.
But it demonstrated that that sort of questionnaire and survey just wasn't going to fit the process. And we needed to have a conversation where initially all of the consideration was it would be you, would be having that guided interview, taking somebody through a journey in the way that you've always done, but recording it. And
Yes.
then taking that recording and us converting it to a transcript and firing it through our AI in order to produce all of the assets. Once we'd started that journey, it then sort of became obvious that actually anybody who has the ability to ask the right questions and understands how businesses operate could potentially carry out that guided interview process. And we've shifted then from it being the profitable marketing acceleration tool to make your business visible now as an application which you're selling into agencies to help them with their discovery and their client education.
Absolutely.
It's quite a leap.
It is a leap. It is a leap. I think what's one of the things that's key is if we've all done networking of one type or another, whether that's it's structured or otherwise, but because we're interested in business and businesses and so on and so forth, you ask people the questions. Okay, so what is it that you do? The problem is they tell you, and that's not really what we're looking for.
No.
And that was one of those pivotal moments when you start to realise that you don't actually want to know what they do. It's part of it, of course, but what you want to know is the deeper how, why, what, all the variants that we all know when developing a story behind business.
I don't think we do all know that. I think that is something pretty unique. And it's just how we then take that unique and capture it in a replicatable process. Nearly got that out straight, didn't I?
It's close enough. It's close enough. I knew what you meant. Yes, and being able to replicate that, I think, is quite key. So there are now, I think that will happen down the road, with AI because it's becoming more and more advanced and doing really well. But the nuances. So when you blink and I look and I go, what's Tim thinking there? Why is he smiling?
Dive into that one.
Then you start to delve, So it is, you have to have that understanding of people, I think. So there's the basic human psychology, the psychological element of sales and marketing communications it's all about people. And it's then about how we just take that whole amorphous mess, if you like, and
The amorphous mess of man.
yeah, absolutely, and use that to create whatever collateral we need, and that could be just a simple elevator pitch for somebody to use when they're networking. It could be a whole website. It could be, a really long, protracted story that somebody tells from the stage. It's whatever's needed. What are the mechanisms for getting the message in front of somebody have changed over the years, but the core basis of educating people to understand and appreciate the value of what you do from their perspective hasn't changed. ...
Mic drop. So can you share a success story that we've had during the beta testing of Make Your Business Visible?
Yeah, that's a good question, because you start to think, well, they've all been pretty successful. And part of that, Tim, I think, is the fact that the technical mechanism captures that information. So even if, for example, there's a question, if I go back through the recording, for example, and I think, I really should have asked that. What I can then do is start to think about that and assimilate that information along with everything else. If I need to, I can pick up the phone and say, Ashley, I forgot to ask you about such and such. And I was just watching back through. So, yeah, and I can gain that answer. But I think the point is that it's all there. It's captured. It transcribes it. It then puts it through the process of building collateral the way I want it built. And because you and your team have been able to take what I'm thinking and, to my mind, very cleverly help it to turn out really valuable collateral, we've got several successful case studies. And I mean, there's one that comes to mind. There's an organization that I'm working with that is they're a manufacturing company. They've been around for 25 years. They manufacture some really good product, but everything has been focused on buy our product. When I started to I spoke to the founder of the business. He's no longer with the business. He's retired. Well, I say retired. He's doing other things, but he's retired from that particular business. He's retired once, yes. His daughter, who's a very, very clever lady, very passionate about the business. When I started asking her questions, it became clear that this was going to be a fantastic interview. And she was giving me so much gold. What was interesting was she also gave me pointers without understanding that she was giving me pointers on just who else I needed to talk to in the organisation. So I went back in and I spoke to the guys that are in the sales department. I spoke to the people who ensure that the production runs smoothly, the people who then take what's been produced and ensure that it's dispatched in the right way to the right people globally to get where it needs to be so that their customers aren't let down. And you start to find that story is much, much deeper.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's almost like unraveling. You pull the thread and then you find out, well, I've pulled the thread and now there's another thread. So you're pulling several threads. And I said it to you that you can't have too much information, and what's interesting to me is that when I initially spoke to this company and we were considering doing some work together, when I was asking them about, why should people buy from you as an organization, as a manufacturer, it was all top line stuff. And these are really smart business people.
Business has been running 25 years. It wasn't doing bad, was it?
No, and it's done well. But I look at it and I say that you can do far better. And interestingly, we embarked on a project, and it's been a few months, and as the principal of the business, the now principal of the business said to me, Chris, we just want to see the really green shoots and how we can grow from that. And in 3 months, he came to me, well, under 3 months now, he came to me and said, we've got some fabulous green shoots. We're hitting targets, we're doing this, we're doing that. And you know what, Tim? It's just because we were able to begin to educate people on the phones, in writing, on emails, in created collateral, catalogs and so on and so forth, changing to the website. Is it finished? Nowhere near. Nowhere near.
These things are never finished, are they?
But if they continue on that path and take all that stuff that we're generating, and the story's still to be developed, there's more in there, because one of the things I found is that you work with a business long enough and somebody will say something and you go, hang on a second, what was that? Well, ABC, XYZ. Hang on, I've looked at everything, spoken to everybody. I've never heard this before. Oh, it's just the way we do things when we do ABC. And that's part of it. They don't know what they don't know, and they don't know what they do know, and they know an awful lot more, but to them, it's just the norm. So when you get into that questioning process, you really have to dig, and you're never going to uncover everything.
So what we're doing here is we're augmenting a human capability. We're taking a person-to-person interaction, and we're just accelerating the insight extraction from that and the creation of collateral. So people think of AI as robots coming to take over the world, but here we're demonstrating that this is a process which has been accelerated by the use of artificial intelligence. We're not getting rid of people at all. Actually, those people are inherently critical to the process. And if you don't have the knowledge and expertise in order to ask the right questions, then nothing's going to happen. There's no crap in, crap out.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good point, Tim, because one of the things that's very clear to me is that the more successful a business is, the more stable a business is.
Yeah.
Okay, so howsoever you define success. But for a business to be sustainable, survive, do well, it has to perform. The better it can perform, surely the better that is for the people that are in it. Will anybody be replaced by AI? Of course, because if there's robotics out there, that can work in some ways, but that's always happened. When tractors were invented, when plows were invented, you go back, it's in the annals of history. But for me, what I see is that augmentation of what we're capable of, getting AI to do, as I keep terming it, the heavy lifting, to speed things up, enables me then to do what I need to do, to leverage what they're doing as a business so that people understand and appreciate why they should buy from them. That, to me, is the exciting part. AI is helping to retain work, retain jobs, because it's delivering quicker. And this particular company, for example, needed a quick delivery. It's not always possible. But utilizing it as a tool like any other is key.
So we're moving into 2024.
Indeed.
What are the plans for Make Your Business Visible's rollout?
Well, I have several marketing organizations who want to beta test. And the idea is that they will beta test it. I want them to be critical. And I don't think we'll have a problem with that. People are great. But I've already had conversations with some of them who have come up with some brilliant ideas for further development. And that's it. That's exactly it. There are some really clever people out there and they understand what needs to be done. Now they're looking at this product and saying, oh, well, Chris, if we, what if? So it will be continued to be developed, but the idea is it's going out for rollout, beta testing in January. By February, I want marketing organizations to be using that in anger, as it were, with their clients to accelerate what they can do for themselves as a business, but also for their clients. The more successful their clients are, the better it is for them.
Wise words indeed.
Perhaps.
So as we've gone through this process, what challenges have we had to overcome?
Well, me, for starters. I was a roadblock in some ways because I was overthinking things. And I remember when you said to me, look, just brain dump it. And I laughed at that point because I say that to my clients all the time. So take your
Plumber's
own
always
medicine.
got leaky pipes.
Yeah, absolutely. Take your own medicine. So when I stopped trying to get things right and just go through the development process, just as I would with anything else, that became easier. Then I think thinking it through from how am I going to help marketing organizations, web developers, brand developers, and so on and so forth, utilize this to their best end. I've had to think more about how I can educate them to the best way to use it.
Yeah.
So we're planning on doing some video. We're doing some guided interview steps, if you like. And the idea is the easier it is for them to use it, the far more likely they are to get a great result from it.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at how can I make that process easier for them.
Wonderful. I've just lost my track. It's unusual, isn't it? So as we look into the future, how do you see AI evolving and helping profitable marketing grow as a company? Are you a tech company now?
No, far from it. I'm a people company, I think. I've always been a people company. I like people, and that's the beauty of business for me, because it doesn't matter whether you're selling to or working with the CEO of a multinational or whether you're working with a sole practitioner. It's all about people, and people are brilliant. Okay, not all of them are nice, but people are brilliant.
Diverse.
Very diverse. So not a tech company, but certainly embracing technology to be able to deliver better, faster. And I think to a more expansive degree with clients. Where it will go is a great question, because in the time that we've been working together on this project, the developments and the acceleration of AI and the technology has been extreme. Yeah. There are things it's doing now that weren't possible 3 months ago, 6 months ago, 9 months ago.
We talked about it going from a 2-month to a 1-week process.
Yes.
And you and I know how quick that process really is. It's brain-spinningly quick.
Brain-spinningly quick. And I think I have no problem in telling people there are no secrets in here. Look, this is a process that has been developed over time and works really, really well. This make your business visible product is a tool to speed that up and to deliver far quicker. And what I've found is it delivers ideas and thoughts. It delivers collateral where I think, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about it from that perspective. but AI's picked up on something, and of course all the clever coding in the background makes it spit out pages and pages of collateral that, as you know, I never use it straight off the page.
No, and nor are we recommending that. It's
No.
We're accelerating a process so that a company can get to 80, 90% of what they need
Absolutely.
very quickly.
Absolutely.
And then the marketing companies, the web designers, and whoever else is ending up using the product, their process is accelerated. It's not replacing human insight and intelligence, because you're looking at that output and going, okay, well, that's not quite right. The way it's been described there could be worded better. We're just giving the ability for something to happen a lot quicker.
Yes.
And to uncover insights that might have been missed normally.
Yes. And that therein is another key, Tim. You keep coming up with these. It's insights that might have been missed. You know, none of us are infallible. And when you're talking to somebody, you can pick up on things, but there are things that you could miss. But when it's recorded, transcribed, goes through our process, runs through that technology, nothing's missed. So, it's interesting. I did one of these. I just wanted to trial the interview process, see how long it would take me to get to usable collateral, where I could turn around and say, I'm happy with that, to test and then refine. And I completed an hour's interview. I went and put the kettle on. By the time I had a coffee in my hand, I had the collateral downloaded. The process is phenomenally quick. It then took me, I think, another 3 or 4 hours to read through everything, assimilate more of the information, think about things from different perspectives, and then change some of the wording to a point where I was happy with it. So,
but that's 2 months to
5 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plus coffee.
But there's always got to be coffee.
Yeah.
What impact do you see AI having over the next couple of years?
I think if people embrace it, there are so many things that can be automated or semi-automated that will help people deliver on what their role is.
Yeah.
I think there's an inherent fear in some people. I think it's because we all watched Terminator. And, it's that thing that, oh my goodness, AI is going to take over the world. We're all going to die. I don't believe that to be true. But what I do see is that when people embrace technology, when people start to embrace something that is proven to work well, they will leverage it and they'll find different and perhaps better ways of doing things. So I just see the acceleration continuing. Make your business visible will be developing. And what that will develop into, I don't know. Maybe it will create avatars and video. Maybe it will create, imagery. I honestly don't know. But what I do know is that it will all be born out of what is it that the client needs to be able to get their message across so that people understand why they should buy from them and not their competitors.
Absolutely. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here, Chris.
Bless you. Thank you for having me.
I look forward to seeing the growth and adoption in Make Your Business Visible. And I recommend that everybody reaches out and gets in touch to see how it could help their business.
That's great. Thank you very much. It's good to talk to you.
Thank you, Chris.
All the best.